Imagine this. A world-famous superstar walks into his own restaurant, disguised like an ordinary man. Poultry-leg eyes. No cameras. No red carpets. Just him. And a plate of fried chicken. But what he hears from two employees that night, face screaming in fear, broken heart, changes everything. This isn't just a story about food. It's about betrayal, loyalty, and the fight for what truly matters. Detective Fire. Backhand index pointing right, stay till the end, because the twist will leave you speechless. Backhand index pointing right, and don't forget to like, thumbs up, share red heart, and subscribe bell so you never miss the stories that reveal the truth behind the legend of John Cena. Collision. The city outside buzzed with noise, neon lights flickering in the distance. But inside the small street of Memphis, one building stood quietly alive. Golden Bite Fried Chicken, John Cena's pride and dream. Poultry leg. The sign glowed faintly, but it wasn't as bright as it used to be. The energy around the place felt tired. Customers still came in, but fewer than before. Their faces showed hunger, yes, but not joy. And that worried Cena more than anything, because tonight, for the first time in years, John Cena wasn't coming here as the owner. He was coming as a stranger. He stepped out of a nondescript rental car, dressed in clothes no one would associate with a global superstar. A plain hoodie hung loosely on his frame, faded jeans, worn-out sneakers. A baseball cap hid his slicked hair, and a pair of smudged glasses shadowed his eyes. Even the faint stubble on his face made him unrecognizable. To the world, he was just another man looking for dinner. But to himself, he was on a mission. Detective. For weeks, troubling numbers had landed on his desk. Customer complaints disguised as feedback. Falling sales in certain branches. And worst of all, subtle whispers that the family's secret recipe, the one passed down for generations, no longer tasted the same. Cena had brushed it off at first. Mistakes happen. Recipes sometimes slip in execution. But deep down, his instincts told him something wasn't right. So tonight, without alerting anyone, he came to see for himself. The bell over the door jingled as he stepped inside. Warmth hit him. The smell of frying oil, buttered biscuits, and spices dancing in the air. It should have felt like home, but it didn't. There was something hollow about it. Behind the counter, a young waitress brightened. "Welcome to Golden Bite, sir. Just you tonight?" Cena gave a polite nod, softening his voice into a gentle southern accent, the kind he hadn't used since childhood. "Yes, ma'am. Been driving all day. Heard you serve the best chicken in Tennessee." Her smile was automatic, professional. "We do our best. Please, take a seat. I'll bring you some sweet tea." Sliding into a booth by the window, Cena scanned the room. The fluorescent lights above flickered faintly. The menu board in the corner was cracked. Some tables had peeling edges. The crowd was thin, and worse, quiet. No laughter, no sparkle, no joy. Just people chewing food they didn't seem to care about. Cena's stomach tightened. This wasn't the restaurant he had built. This wasn't the legacy his grandmother had trusted him to protect. His eyes drifted to the kitchen. Workers moved, but sluggishly. Orders sat too long before being taken. Details, small to anyone else, but glaring to him. He leaned back in his seat, his mind racing. Something was wrong here. Something bigger than bad service. Bigger than lazy staff. And tonight, he was about to find out exactly what it was. What John Cena didn't know was that within minutes, he would overhear a conversation. A conversation that would change everything. Face screaming in fear, fire. The waitress soon returned, setting down a tall glass of sweet tea in front of Cena. Condensation rolled down the sides, cold against the dimly lit room. He gave a polite smile, his disguise holding firm. "Can I get you started with something to eat?" she asked cheerfully. Cena leaned forward slightly, his voice still carrying that soft southern lilt. "Your signature fried chicken plate. 3 pieces, with mashed potatoes, coleslaw, and a biscuit, if you don't mind." Coming right up, she scribbled the order and walked toward the kitchen. Cena took a sip of the tea. Too sweet, almost syrupy. Not balanced the way he remembered. He set the glass down and exhaled slowly, his eyes scanning the room again. The restaurant felt worn. A flickering bulb overhead buzzed like a fly that refused to die. The laminate on the table's edge peeled slightly under his fingers. In the far corner, 2 kids pushed fries across their tray without interest. A couple sat in silence, scrolling their phones. This wasn't how it used to be. Golden Bite had once been alive. Laughter filling the air, families arguing over the last drumstick, people leaving with smiles and stories to tell. But now, it was flat. Minutes passed. Cena sat quietly, his sharp eyes catching details others ignored. The kitchen bell rang once. No one picked up the plate. It rang again. Still no response. Finally, after the 3rd ring, someone lazily carried food out. Details. Small cracks, but cracks that break an empire. 20 minutes later, the waitress returned with his order. A steaming plate of golden brown fried chicken, fluffy mashed potatoes smothered in gravy, a crisp slaw, and a warm buttermilk biscuit. "Here you go, sir. Enjoy." "Thank you kindly," Cena said, lowering his head. He picked up the drumstick, steam rising as the crispy batter crunched beneath his fingers. For a moment, it looked perfect, exactly the way Golden Bite chicken had always looked. He took a bite. The crunch was satisfying, the meat tender, the seasoning familiar. But then, his jaw slowed. His eyes narrowed. Something was missing. It wasn't bad. In fact, any ordinary customer might call it great. But Cena wasn't ordinary. This was his recipe. One his grandmother had taught him when he was just a boy standing over a sizzling skillet in a tiny kitchen. He had eaten it 1,000 times, perfected it over decades. He knew every note, every spice, every rhythm of flavor like he knew the sound of his own heartbeat. And this wasn't it. He took another bite, this time from the breast piece. Again, the same problem. The texture was right, the appearance flawless. But the soul, the secret blend of spices that defined Golden Bite, was absent. Cena set the piece down slowly. His heart sank. Either something had gone wrong in the mix, or worse, someone had changed the recipe. But how? The spice blend was pre-mixed at headquarters, locked down tighter than gold. Only a handful of people had access to the master formula. Even cooks in the kitchen received sealed packets, coded and unmarked. And yet, here it was. A plate of food that looked right, but tasted wrong. As Cena stared down at the meal, his mind turned sharp. This wasn't a mistake. This was a message. And within minutes, that message would reveal itself. Through the voices of 2 careless employees who didn't know that John Cena was sitting just a few feet away. Detective fire. Cena sat quietly in his booth, the half-eaten plate in front of him growing colder by the minute. His fingers tightened around the napkin on his lap. Every bite confirmed what his instincts had screamed from the start. Someone had tampered with his recipe. But the question was who, and why? As he pondered, voices drifted from behind the server station. At first, it was background chatter, clinking glasses, the shuffle of trays. But then, 2 voices stood out, low and urgent. He didn't mean to eavesdrop, but the words hit him like a thunderclap. "High voltage. I'm telling you, Ethan," a young woman hissed. "We need to keep it down. If anyone finds out..." "Relax, Mia," the man cut in, his tone smug, almost laughing. "Nobody suspects a thing. The recipe's already gone. Their accounts are 20 grand heavier. Who's gonna know?" Cena froze. His fork hovered inches from the mashed potatoes, his hands stiff. His face remained calm, but his heartbeat thundered in his chest. $20,000. The recipe. Mia's voice dropped to a nervous whisper. Crispy Crown's already using it. You know that. They tweaked it just enough to dodge trouble, but trust me, it's ours. Ethan chuckled darkly. Yeah, and nobody here even notices the difference. Look around. These people couldn't tell gourmet from gas station food. And management? Please, as long as costs stay low, they don't care. Cena's jaw clenched. His grandmother's legacy. The very heart of Golden Bite, stolen and sold like some cheap secret. And these two had the nerve to laugh about it. Then came the question that sent chills down his spine. How'd you even get it? Mia whispered. That recipe was locked up tighter than Fort Knox. Ethan leaned closer, his voice dripping with arrogance. Let's just say someone at corporate has champagne taste and a credit card problem. Loyalty always has a price. Cena's chest tightened. His hand trembled ever so slightly under the table. Corporate. Someone high up. Someone he trusted. This wasn't just theft. This was betrayal. And it ran deeper than he had feared. But Cena didn't move. Not yet. He kept his disguise intact, staring down at his plate. Eyes locked on the biscuit he would never eat. Because now he knew the truth. And tonight was only the beginning. John Cena sat frozen, his face unreadable, while inside his chest a storm raged. The laughter of Ethan, the fear in Mia's voice, the mention of a corporate traitor. Every word replayed in his mind, sharper than the last. But Cena knew one thing for sure. He couldn't act now. Not here. Not in front of a dining room full of unsuspecting customers. If he made a scene, the guilty would scatter, and the truth would sink deeper into the shadows. So instead, he breathed slowly, forced calm into his movements, and carefully pushed his plate away. The chicken grew cold untouched. The mashed potatoes sat stirred, but uneaten. He pulled a few crumpled bills from his pocket. Cash, nothing traceable, and slid them under the edge of the plate. Enough for the bill, and more. A generous tip that wouldn't raise suspicion. Then he stood, quietly adjusting his hoodie and glasses. His footsteps echoed faintly on the tiled floor as he walked toward the door. Neither Ethan nor Mia looked his way. Why would they? To them, he was just another tired stranger leaving after a meal. But behind his glasses, Cena's eyes burned with fire. The door chimed softly as he stepped into the humid Memphis night bell. The air outside felt heavier, thicker, almost suffocating. He pulled his cap lower and headed toward the parking lot, his mind racing. His grandmother's recipe. His family's legacy. Sold for $20,000 by someone at the top of his own company. This wasn't a kitchen mistake. This wasn't laziness. This was treason. Cena reached his car, his hands trembling slightly as he pulled out a simple burner phone. He scrolled through the few numbers saved inside and dialed the one person he could trust. The line clicked. "Diana," he said quietly. His voice was low, steady, but every word carried weight. "We have a problem." On the other end, Diana Chun, head of security, former FBI, and Cena's most trusted ally, didn't waste time with small talk. "What did you find?" Cena's jaw tightened. "The recipe's gone. Leaked. They're using it at Crispy Crown. I overheard 2 employees talking, Ethan and Mia. But the leak didn't start here. It came from corporate. Someone with top-level access." Silence. Then Diana's calm but firm reply. "Do you have a suspect?" "Not yet," Cena admitted. "But it's someone high up. Someone who shouldn't have been touched. I need you to run a quiet check. Server logs, access history, any financial anomalies. Offshore accounts, gambling debt, bonuses that don't add up. Whatever it takes. Keep it tight. Nobody outside this line can know." "Understood," Diana said. You'll have my report within 48 hours. Cena exhaled, staring across the dark parking lot. His reflection glared back from the car window, but it wasn't the reflection of John Cena, the celebrity, the icon. It was someone else. Someone he hadn't been in years. Clear my calendar, he muttered to himself. No press, no meetings. If anyone asks, I'm out of the country. Because by morning, John Cena would no longer exist. And in his place, a quiet man with a fake name and a dishwashing job would walk through the doors of Golden Bite. Detective, not as the owner, not as the star, but as a nobody who would uncover the truth from the inside. The next morning, the sun had barely risen over Memphis when a tired-looking man walked across the parking lot of Golden Bite Fried Chicken. His hair was darker now, tinted with cheap box dye. The clean shave was gone, replaced with a patchy scruff. His jeans were worn, his flannel faded at the elbows. If you passed him on the street, you wouldn't give him a second glance. But under the disguise was John Cena. Detective, today, he wasn't a billionaire restaurateur. Today, he was Larry Cooper, a man with no fame, no fortune, and no power. Just another job applicant looking for work. He stepped through the back door of the restaurant at 9:05 a.m. The familiar smell of frying oil and biscuits hit him again, but this time it felt different. It felt tainted. Inside the cramped office sat Ryan Mitchell, the branch manager. He didn't even bother looking up from his computer as Cena entered. You the guy for the dishwasher gig? Ryan muttered. Yes, sir, Cena replied, his voice softer, with a faint southern drawl. Larry Cooper. Used to work at a diner out in Bowling Green. Just looking for something steady. Ryan finally looked up, scanning him once from head to toe. Cena kept his shoulders slouched, his posture humble, his eyes lowered. $12.50 an hour, Ryan said flatly. No benefits until 90 days. Start today if you want it. Cena nodded, forcing a grateful smile. I'm just thankful for the chance. Ryan scribbled something on a paper and jerked his thumb toward the kitchen. Uniforms in the back. Shadow Marcos today. He'll show you the dish pit. Don't be late. Don't complain. That's it. Within the hour, Cena's hands were plunged into boiling soapy water, scrubbing trays, dodging steaming pans, and hauling stacks of dirty dishes. The work was relentless, but he didn't flinch, because here, in the back of his own restaurant, he was invisible, and that was exactly where he needed to be. By noon, Cena had already started learning. Ethan, the cocky cook, loved cutting corners when nobody watched. Mia, the nervous waitress, laughed at Ethan's jokes, but her eyes told another story. Guilt, fear, something deeper. And Ryan, the manager, wasn't just lazy. He was careless, dismissive, and sometimes muttered things under his breath about preferring Crispy Crown's food over their own. Every detail went into Cena's mental notebook. Every careless word, every corner cut, every shift in tone. He didn't complain. He didn't argue. He just worked, dish after dish, hour after hour. Because the longer he stayed invisible, the closer he got to the truth. And what he was about to discover next would hit even harder than the betrayal he had already overheard. Collision. By day 2, Cena, or rather, Larry Cooper, had settled into the rhythm of the dish pit. Scalding water, endless stacks of plates, the clatter of trays, the sting of soap biting into his skin. But he wasn't here to wash dishes. He was here to listen. And the more he listened, the uglier the truth became. At first, it was small things. Ethan tossing undercooked chicken in the fryer for just another minute, instead of starting fresh. Ryan rolling his eyes when a customer sent food back. Mia pretending to smile, but retreating quickly whenever Ethan leaned too close. Then came the whispers. During his break, Cena sat in the back room, chewing on a dry sandwich, pretending not to pay attention. Ryan and Ethan leaned near the fryer, their voices low. "Jacob's getting nervous," Ryan muttered. "Jacob?" Ethan asked. "What for?" Cena's heart skipped. Jacob Reynolds. His right-hand man for almost a decade. Ryan's voice dropped lower. "He's afraid corporate will catch on. Wants to move up the timeline. He needs the access logs wiped clean before anyone notices." Ethan snorted. "Can't he just delete them?" Ryan shook his head. "Not without setting off alarms. He's planning a distraction. Supply chain reports. Fake shortages. Something to keep everyone looking the other way while he scrubs the files." Cena froze mid-bite. His jaw tightened, but he forced himself to keep chewing, keep acting like he wasn't listening. This wasn't just about stolen recipes anymore. This was bigger. Much bigger. His most trusted partner, plotting sabotage, manipulating the system, preparing to collapse the very empire they had built together. Cena's hands gripped the edges of the table. His knuckles whitened, but his face stayed calm. Nobody could know he was listening. Nobody could know Larry Cooper was anything more than a tired dishwasher. By the end of his shift, his heart was heavier than the buckets of dishes he carried. Because now Cena understood. This wasn't just theft. This was a coordinated takedown. And if he didn't stop it, Golden Bite wouldn't just lose its recipe. It would lose everything. That night, in his cheap motel room, Cena pulled out the burner phone again. The room was dark, the only light a dull glow from the street lamp outside. "Diana," he said as soon as she answered. His voice was grim. "It's Jacob. He's the leak." On the other end, Diana's voice was steady, but he could hear the edge of anger. "Are you sure?" "I heard it with my own ears," Cena said. "He's planning to wipe the servers. This isn't just about money. It's about destroying the company from the inside." Silence. Then Diana replied firmly. "Then we don't just catch him. We trap him." Cena leaned back in the squeaky motel chair, his jaw set like stone. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking like a celebrity. He was thinking like a soldier. And the war for his legacy had just begun. Collision. The motel room was silent except for the ticking of a cheap wall clock. Cena sat at the small desk, his disguised jacket hanging on the chair, his eyes fixed on a folder Diana had handed him earlier that night. Inside were the names, the logins, the financial irregularities, and there it was in black and white. Jacob Reynolds, COO of Golden Bite, accessing the recipe server 3 times in the past month. Offshore transfers, payments routed through shell companies. And finally, a direct link to Krispy Kreme's executives. The betrayal was no longer rumor. It was fact. Diana's voice came through the encrypted call, calm and precise. "If we go public now, it's his word against yours. Jacob will bury it under lawyers, delay it for months. You'll lose momentum. We need them to incriminate themselves." Cena's eyes narrowed. "Then we bait the hook." Diana raised an eyebrow on the screen. "With what?" Cena leaned forward. "A new recipe. Something too good for them to resist. We plant it. Let Jacob and his friends take it. And when they roll it out..." He paused, his voice cold. "We'll be waiting." That night, they worked for hours. Cena and Diana, drafting what looked like an enhanced version of Golden Bite's legendary recipe. Richer spices, altered ratios, new marination instructions. On paper, it looked revolutionary, but in practice, it was a disaster. Too much clove, bitter paprika, and a sodium balance that would destroy any fryer at scale. Not poison, not dangerous, just enough to ruin the flavor completely. It was a perfect trap. 2 days later, Diana sent the message. "File accessed. 6:43 a.m. download confirmed. By Jacob Reynolds." Cena exhaled, the faintest smirk crossing his face. The fish had taken the bait. Back at the Memphis branch, Larry Cooper went about his day as usual, scrubbing trays, wiping counters, keeping his ears open. He watched Ryan swagger around the kitchen with unusual excitement. He watched Ethan grin like a man with a secret. "Big things coming," Ryan whispered to Ethan as Cena quietly mopped the floor nearby. "Straight from the top. We're talking a nationwide rollout. Golden Deuce. Next level chicken." Ethan laughed, cocky as ever. "Crispy Crown's gonna own the market. Golden Bite won't even see it coming." Cena kept his face blank, his disguise unshaken. But deep inside, his heart pounded like a war drum. The trap was working. That night, Diana's voice came through his burner phone again. "We've got audio." Ryan and Ethan confirmed the new recipe came from Jacob. They're calling it Golden Deuce, and Crispy Crown plans to launch it first. Cena stood by the motel window, staring out at the neon lights of the city. His reflection stared back at him in the glass. Tired eyes, clenched jaw, determination burning hotter than ever. "Good," he said. "Let them. Because when they launch," he turned from the window, his voice firm, "they'll be signing their own confession." What Cena didn't know yet was that Jacob wasn't planning to come alone. He was bringing Crispy Crown's CEO with him. And the final showdown would happen inside Cena's own restaurant. Collision. The restaurant buzzed with unusual energy that morning. Ryan barked orders, Ethan smirked with excitement, and the staff rushed to prepare as if royalty were arriving. At 10 a.m., the back door swung open. In walked Jacob Reynolds, Cena's COO of 8 years, dressed in a sharp charcoal suit. And right behind him, Walter Reed, CEO of Crispy Crown, their biggest rival. Ryan greeted them like kings. "Everything's prepped just like you asked, sir. Nobody will see this coming." From the corner of the hallway, hidden in the shadows, Larry Cooper watched silently. His disguise had held for 2 weeks. But today, it was no longer needed. Cena removed his glasses, pulled off the worn flannel, and ran his fingers through his dyed hair, revealing the man beneath. For the first time in days, John Cena looked back at himself in the mirror. He stepped into the hallway just as Jacob and Walter passed. "Morning, Jacob," Cena said calmly. Jacob's head snapped around. His face went pale. "John, what are you doing here?" Cena's eyes locked on him, steady and unflinching. "Better question, Jacob. What are you doing here?" With our competitor's CEO, the room fell silent. Ethan froze mid-step. Ryan's mouth hung open, and Mia dropped a tray she was holding. The clatter echoed through the restaurant. Walter Reed narrowed his eyes. "This isn't the time, Cena." "It's exactly the time," Cena said, his voice cutting through the air. "For weeks, I've scrubbed your dishes, cleaned your floors, and listened to your whispers. And I've gathered enough evidence to bury every single one of you." Jacob tried to regain composure. "You're mistaken. You have no proof." Cena's lips curved into a faint, cold smile. "Oh, but I do. Recordings, server logs, emails you thought were deleted. Even photos of Crispy Crown's shiny new banner with my recipe on it. The one you stole." Walter's smug face twisted. "You mean it wasn't real?" Cena leaned forward. "It was bait, and you took it." The room erupted. Ryan stammered. Ethan turned pale, and Mia covered her mouth in shock. At that moment, the front doors burst open. Diana Chun walked in with 2 plainclothes officers and Golden Bite's legal counsel. "Mr. Reynolds," she said firmly, holding a folder thick with documents, "you are under investigation for corporate espionage, fraud, and theft of intellectual property." Jacob's legs buckled. This isn't my fault," he shouted. "Ryan, Ethan, they dragged me into this." Ryan backed away, shaking his head. "No, Jacob said it would be safe. He promised." Ethan raised his hands, panicked. "I didn't even do anything." Diana's tone was icy. You did enough. Officers moved in, handcuffs clicking shut. Walter Reed glared at Cena, his voice sharp as a blade. You'll regret this. Cena stepped closer, his voice calm but full of fire. The only thing I regret is trusting people like you. The officers led the traitors out, their heads hanging in shame. The staff remained frozen, stunned into silence. Finally, Cena turned to face them. There will be a company meeting, he said, and every single one of you will have a seat at the table. Golden Bite isn't built on lies. It's built on trust. And starting today, that's exactly what we rebuild. His eyes softened as they landed on Mia. You made mistakes, he told her. But I heard what you said in that storage room. You didn't want to hurt anyone. You still have a place here, if you want to make it right. Tears welled in her eyes as she nodded. For the first time in weeks, Cena felt the weight lift from his chest. Justice had been served. His grandmother's recipe was safe. And his legacy, their legacy, would live on. The battle was over. But the story of Golden Bite was just beginning. Glowing Star. Direct hit closing. CTA in English. Backhand index pointing right. If this story touched your heart, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from Globe Showing Europe Africa. Backhand index pointing right. Remember, every like, comment, and share helps this family grow, so we can keep bringing you more powerful stories. Red heart. Backhand index pointing right, and don't miss tomorrow's episode. We've got something even more inspiring coming your way. Fire!